Good morning, Drexel Hill Middle School students, staff, community members, and distinguished guests. We've gathered here today to take a break from our class instruction and to put our holiday plans on hold to do something incredibly important, to fulfill our duty to pay tribute to the countless brave Americans who have died while defending the liberty of fellow citizens, not just of the United States, but of the entire free world. It's with this in mind that we require all who are in attendance today to conduct yourself in a manner befitting a memorial ceremony. If it helps, think about the way people normally act at a funeral when you're honoring a loved one. That is exactly what we're doing today. We are honoring the hundreds and thousands of loved ones that have died for this country. While you will certainly hear and witness things that would commonly be followed by applause, I'm asking that today you show your respect and appreciation by remaining silent. This ceremony is a time to focus and to reflect upon the sacrifices made throughout our country's history in the name of freedom, and also to contemplate what role we each have as a citizen to remember that sacrifice. At this point, I'm going to introduce our guest speaker, who will be saying a few words with you after our opening. Master Gunnery Sergeant David Crawford joins me on stage today. Sergeant Crawford grew up in Drexel Hill, just a few blocks from this school on Harding Drive, in the neighborhood that many of you are growing up in. He attended our school, Drexel Hill Middle School, from 1970 to 1973, and then went on to Upper Darby High School, where he graduated in 1976. Now we're about to start a 4-day weekend. I want you to think about this for a second. Just 4 days after graduating from Upper Darby High School and receiving his diploma, Sergeant Crawford enlisted in the Marine Corps and was sent to recruit training at Parris Island, South Carolina. While in the Marine Corps, Sergeant Crawford was assigned to the infantry and attended infantry combat training, weapons instructor school, mountain warfare training, desert warfare training, jungle warfare training, counterintelligence courses, and various survival schools. Years later, Sergeant Crawford was sent to recruiter school in San Diego, California, where he was eventually sent back home on recruiting duty. During his second tour of recruiting duty, Sergeant Crawford attended Pennsylvania State Constable Academy at Newman University during the evenings to work part-time as a state constable. Sergeant Crawford was released from active duty in 2000 and was reassigned to the Marine Corps Reserves. He then worked at Sun Valley High School in Aston as the junior ROTC Marine Corps instructor until 2003. After that, he remained working as a state constable until 2010. In 2006, Sergeant Crawford retired from the Marine Corps after 30 years of service and returned to his alma mater, where I first met him, Upper Darby School District, to work for the Public Safety Department. Sergeant Crawford is also the founder of the Upper Darby Marine Corps League, a veterans organization that helps out veterans and community programs in Upper Darby. It's my hope that when he speaks with you today, that he'll strike a chord with you and talk about something that you see every day and may take for granted and change and shift the way that you see things day to day. At this time, please rise quietly for our national anthem.
We morning. If I get a little emotional, understand why. Like Mr. Alloway said, I went to school here. I sat out there where you're sitting right now with all my friends, played football, was on the fitness team. My friends were wrestling, baseball, just like you guys are doing here now. Left here and went on to Upper Darby and graduated. But to find out what really was going on in my life, I take you back to 1967, when I was 9 years old, and at that time I was in St. Bernadette's. My father was called, he was an Upper Darby police officer and was called back in the Marine Corps to go to Vietnam, which would be his third war. And at that time he was 40 years old. I also had 3 cousins that were in their 20s, that his nephews, that were also called into Vietnam, one in the Army, Navy, and the Marines. In May of '67, my cousin Michael was killed. So when I was going down to leaving the house on Harding Drive, going over to Jersey to pay my respects to my cousin, the Marines had pulled up my street. So I thought, hey, the Marines are here, that's great. Not realizing that if something happens to a Marine, the Marines come personally. My father had been shot up. Wasn't dead, but he had been shot up. So I got to the funeral, and I just really noticed the honor that they were paying my cousin in Jersey and how they treated the whole ceremony, and it amazed me at 9 years old. Skipping ahead a couple years further, my brother went to Vietnam in '70. He was hit, he was shot up, lived, came back, and then going further with my buddy Louis DiTomo, who we used to play in here all the time and sit together and joke around just like all you guys do. When I left high school, I joined the Marines. Louis joined the Navy. I didn't think that 18 months later I would get a phone call from his sister that Louis passed away. So I had to go get his body. I was the escort to bring him home. Like I said, he was in the Navy. I brought him back. Again, dignity, respect, and honor. I was 19 years old, and I'm burying my first friend. As time went on in the Marine Corps, I went on in my life and traveling or whatever and meet people around the world and meet other guys that were in the Marine Corps from all over. Off the coast of Iran when they had the hostages over there. The next biggest thing, I guess, was Beirut. I had left the 2nd Marine Division down at Camp Lejeune. I was headed on my way to recruiter school. My unit was left there and went to Beirut. 230 of them died in the bombing of Beirut. 22 were close friends of mine. I was 23 years old. So when I look at this day, I don't think about how they died. I think about how they lived. I think about why they did this job. There's only 7% of the people in the United States that protect the rest. And some of you in here are going to do the same thing and maybe someday be standing up here like I am. When I sit around and I think back of all my times overseas or wherever I was, and I got to come back to one thing of why we do such a thing. Why do we do such a thing? Why do we get people like this? Well, we need it to make sure you keep going on with your life, your success stories, and whatever, whether you go into service or not. It really doesn't matter. And there's one thing that a lot of military guys did when they were in the service, and I did the same thing. Something you see every day, something everybody sees every day, but do they really understand it? This is something you see every day. It's got 50 stars on it. It's got 13 stripes for the 13 original colonies. The 50 stars are the states of the United States. Stars represent you. You're a star. I carry this to remind me why I was doing this. It wasn't because of me. It was because of you. And maybe your parents and whoever grew up before that. So when I look at this flag that everybody sees every day, you really know what it's about. You got 50 stars in the middle, represent you. It's surrounded by blue. Okay, the white is you, is your purity in life. Growing up, making mistakes, moving on. What protects you is the blue around the stars. That stands for justice. They're the laws and the Constitution that protect your rights as an American. The purity runs through the flag with the 6 white stripes, and it's flanked only by the red stripes. The red stripes are the men and women that sacrificed their life so that you might be free. So when I leave here today, I'm going to go across the street and I'm going to put this flag on my friend's grave. But I want you to understand, if you walk across the street and you see a flag flying, there's your heroes. I was lucky. I survived it. But they're your heroes. Thank you.
All across the country this weekend, elected officials and dignitaries will be presenting memorial wreaths at various sites in order to honor our fallen soldiers. This morning, as a part of our ceremony, we will be doing the same here. I am proud to be joined by my 3 classmates who will help us with the wreath-laying ceremony. Josiah Sadek, Madison Martin, Faizan Sari, and I all participated this year as student administrators for Drexel Hill Middle School. Our student leadership team will present our memorial wreath at the base of the American flag. As it is tradition, this will be followed by the playing of Taps by Andrew Wise. At that time, we will pause for a moment of silence. Please rise quietly.
In closing this morning, I'd like to give our students an idea of the price that has been paid in the name of freedom. In the lobby of the Performing Arts Center at the Upper Darby High School, there are memorial plaques that recognize students and other members of the high school who left our local community to serve our country and made the ultimate sacrifice with their lives. Among the names on the plaques is Robert Higbee, who would have been my second cousin, but never made it home from Vietnam War. What strikes your eye when looking at these plaques is the sheer number of names included in these memorials. Many of us know what it's like to lose a family member, a friend, a classmate, or even a student. No one in my generation knows the pain of losing young men and women in such large quantities and in such a short period of time. We haven't had to learn how to help the community to cope with such great and tragic loss. And for that, in 2019, we are truly blessed. This country is certainly not perfect for all of our citizens yet. However, what we have created through generations of selflessness, of bravery, courage, and of sacrifice is a country of promise. That every citizen has the potential and the capacity to be a part of the changes that will improve the lives of themselves and of others is the legacy of the gift of freedom, which was fought for, earned, and continues to be protected by our national heroes. The freedom to speak your mind and to protest, no matter what party is in control of the government. How much do you think that's worth? The freedom to have multiple different streams of news coming to you. Can we put a price on that? How about the freedom to practice a religion that you choose, or if you choose to not practice a religion at all? What might it cost for us to keep that? The next time you pass through the lobby of the Performing Arts Center, whether it's for 8th grade awards or for a summer stage performance, take a moment to pause and to reflect on these lives and all the lives that have been lost in service to our country and in service to the promise of freedom. More than just a trip down the shore, a barbecue, or an extra day off of school, Memorial Day exists to give us time to pause and take a break from our routine so that we can recognize our friends, our family, our neighbors, and our classmates who have family or who may have themselves paid a sacrifice and died serving in our armed forces. For today, I would like to thank all of you for your respect and your attention to today's performances and ceremony. I would like to thank our music department, Ms. Schneider, Mr. Kirchner, Ms. LaRue, for the excellent choral music, Mr. Marzak and the symphonic band for performing so beautifully this morning. I'd like to thank our student administrators, Cooper Watson, Faiza Ansari, Madison Martin, and Josiah Sadek for the presentation of the wreath. And I also want to express deep appreciation for Mrs. Love for helping to organize today's ceremony, and of course to Sergeant Crawford for taking time out of his day to join us and to help us see the flag in a different way. Thank you all for your attention. I want you to have a great holiday weekend, and I ask that you please exit today with the same level of respect and attention as you entered. Teachers, when you're ready, you can begin escorting your class back.